Situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo and in the South Kivu particularly remains very volatile. According to a UN spokesperson, credible reports indicates that the M23 rebels is moving rapidly towards the city of Bukavu. Now, let's have more of that in this report by Mamadi Baro.
The human rights situation in the Democratic Republic of the Congo remains dire, largely due to the persistent large-scale attack against civilians by armed groups and the state Congolese security forces, fueled the humanitarian crisis in which nearly 7 million people were internally displaced and thousands of others fled the country. Armed groups killed thousands of civilians and the army carried out extrajudicial killings. Since the war began, sexual and gender-based violence remained prevalent, with over 38,000 reported cases in North Kivu province only during the first quarter of the year. As the situation deteriorates, the rights to freedom of expression, peaceful assembly, and association were routinely violated. Journalists, opposition members, and activists, among others, were subjected to arbitrary detentions and faced unfair trials. Addressing the press on the evolving situation in DRC, Stephen Dujarric, spokesperson for the United Nations Secretary General, expressed deep concerns about the prevailing situation, particularly in South Kivu, which he said remains very volatile, with credible reports that the M23 is moving rapidly towards the city of Bukavu.
We are deeply concerned by the situation in South Kivu particularly, which remains very volatile, with credible reports that the M23 is moving rapidly towards the city of Bukavu. In addition, our colleagues in the peacekeeping mission say that there are reports of Rwandan Defense Forces cross-border movements in that direction. Clashes are continuing to be reported between the M23 and the Congolese armed forces and allied forces south of Minova in South Kivu. As a reminder, peacekeepers withdrew from South Kivu province in June of last year. Today, our colleagues are also concerned about humanitarian security risks, particularly interethnic conflict in the absence of UN peacekeeping forces in that area.
Dujarric further mentioned that the situation remains tense and volatile, with occasional shooting continuing within Goma city.
In Goma, which is in North Kivu province, the situation remains tense and volatile, with occasional shooting continuing within the city. Water and electricity have been off for almost a week, and unexploded ordnance remains a serious obstacle to freedom of movement of people, humanitarians, and peacekeepers. The mission was able, however, to take a few reconnaissance patrols yesterday within the city to begin the process of assessing damage, and number of peacekeeping positions were able to be resupplied. The airport runway in Goma sustained significant damage in the recent fighting and remains non-operational. The peacekeeping mission is obviously operating in an extremely challenging environment and is being tested. However, their priorities remain the protection of the many civilians sheltering within its premises, as well as the protection of its own personnel and assets.
The armed conflict continued to devastate children's rights to education. Natural disasters left hundreds dead and thousands missing. Prisons were severely overcrowded and inmates' conditions were generally appalling. No meaningful progress was made towards accountability and justice for victims of under international law and other serious human rights violations. The recent intensified fighting between the M23 rebels and state security forces is expected to further deteriorate the situation. Reporting for Eyeafrica News, I am Mamadi Baro.